What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dynasty Underdog. Billy Beeman here. Got your Ed Dawkins with me. And return guest Jagger May, host of Fast Draft, and I guess technically host of Unbinged Pod. I don't know how you guys do it over there with a couple of you, but yeah, host of that. That's a pretty cool show, man. I know it's a little outside of fantasy, but definitely vibe with the movie and show content and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. But so yeah, man, excited about have you back on. How you doing?
Good, man. For me, my personal experience with Dynasty season is starting to wind down. There's a couple of more startups happening. On my rookie drafts are done. And it's now we're thinking about 2025. And I don't know about you guys. Sometimes you get regretty spaghetti looking at your rosters. You feel rock hard about it. And then you get to end of May and June, you're like, I'm starting to get there,
No, totally feel that. Yeah, I was talking to Jake, who's not on here now, but I was talking to him and I was just there's a couple of these rosters that just I cannot figure out what to do with. Most of them I know what I'm doing, but there's a couple of them I've just got to this point. I'm like you're saying, a couple of regrets. I didn't make the moves that I should have when I should, and just maybe didn't make the picks I wanted to in the rookie drafts. But yeah, man, it definitely winding down from the scouting season and everything. A lot of work that we all just did. I know you put in a ton of work too, and we're actually going to talk about that in a few minutes. Definitely want to hear a little bit about kind of what your process is looking like. But I did want to touch on some quick news since we don't have much during this time of year. Derek Carr did retire, so I don't know if we really touched on that last. RIP. Damn, he didn't die. He says,
in my heart he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Been sitting Shiva for the last. Yeah. It's I've been sitting Shiva on Derek Carr's career for 2 seasons.
I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting. Yeah, I mean, I guess the news about him isn't really much to talk about necessarily. Obviously, a fairly good career, kind of mid-career, but good career for him. Shout out Derek Carr. But I think this is really a chance to kind of talk a little bit about Tyler Shug, or just, I mean, maybe anybody else you want in that QB room. But I guess, what are your thoughts on Shug, a guy going in kind of the mid to late second round now of your rookie drafts? Are you in on that?
I mean, am I in on it? Yeah, for the cost. I definitely, especially when the normies start drafting more, because that's why I tried to preface that dynasty season for me is over. But I got a couple of home leagues. They're like, oh, don't forget, our draft's coming up. I'm like, shit, it's June. I forgot I was even in here. That's those type of leagues coming around. I think that his ADP might get a little too high because it's just. We've seen this every year, man. I was he's got both Davis Mills and Desmond Ridder in him. And I don't mean that. I mean that for what it is.
That's not a compliment in any way.
Yeah. It's man, I think he's a backup that they spent a second round on, but he's a little bit mobile. He has a better arm than Desmond Ridder does, but so did this is what I come into the Davis Mills. So did Davis Mills. But what does that even mean? When you have accuracy issues. But really, I'm just excited that Chris Olave is going to get even cheaper because I think the Saints are committed to the tank. That's what this matters. Is before they're like, well, we were a playoff team. We just need one more thing. I'm like, nope, you still got Derek Carr. So let's and that's this purgatory this roster's been in. So they've gotten the message faster than the Steelers have, I think. And that's something.
Yeah, that's fair. Both teams have similar problems. That's for sure. Yeah. So do you have any concern about Chris Olave's health, concussions, any of that kind of stuff with him, or you're fine?
I just take it as it comes, if there was some serious concern, I felt like it would come out now. And if Tua's still trying to play, I've seen some shit with Tua. I was like, I think he's done for sure. I'm not a doctor, but damn, he looks done, but he's not, so maybe if Chris Olave would just not get any more hospital balls and maybe just take hits the average wide receiver, I'm willing to bet on that talent, especially at cost. I'm paying wide receiver 3 costs, even in Dynasty. Redraft sometimes even lower.
Yeah, I mean, we had the same concerns with Brandon Cooks. And I mean, He just stopped getting concussions.
You just quit, gave that up.
Off the wagon. I love it. That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, speaking of Shug and just the rookie class and all that, I know like myself and some others, you like digging into the film. You like grading these guys out pretty systematically. So, I've seen your process in the past, kind of what you have done. We kind of try to collab on things in the past, but it's been a few years actually. So just kind of wondering like what your scouting process looks like. Like we don't need to go, 30 minutes into it necessarily, anything like that, but just kind of wondering, like how are you grading these guys out? Are you, still looking like at an attribute level? Like what are you doing when you break down the class?
I still do it at an attribute level, and then it's vibes after that. Like, and what I mean is just like I have these film grades now. When I'm ranking them, situation matters, draft capital matters, all those things go into account. So like, and that just means like, who am I going to fade? Like Kyle Manon guy, someone I really liked, but his Raz came back pretty David Montgomery-ish. And then he got like low draft capital. So I'm like, okay, he's someone that I'm heavily going to target in the fourth round. Just because I really liked his film grade doesn't mean I'm going to go by that anymore. Whereas someone like last season, Ron Thomas Jr., I'm like, wow, he seems to be breaking the way I'm doing this. And I'm like, that doesn't feel real. And I feel like I'm against consensus. And like, now I'm just mad at myself for not having the balls to like stand on business, especially after he gets the draft capital to back what I saw as well. And it's the same thing with like Malik Willis versus Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like there was a real spiral of silence there. So like that's why I say like, yes, I look at the attributes, I grade them. This year I need to make adjustments to running backs and a little bit receivers. And that's just like looking at what you've done every year and then looking what the NFL clearly likes and then making adjustments after, and that's, I think, what I try to do. And when I tell people with vibes, I say that jokingly, but I feel like a lot of people are really stubborn with their own draft processes. So they're not willing to just like adjust, even in season or right away when clearly there's an outlier or something wrong.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I think one thing you said specifically, like understanding what the NFL likes is is a huge piece of the process. And I think people kind of lose sight of that when they look at what they like. You know what I mean? Like we all have our kind of biases of the players that we enjoy watching or enjoy playing or, enjoy their play style kind of thing. And I think we forget like what the NFL is actually looking for, what the specific coaches that are drafting these players are looking for too, right? Like it definitely comes down to that level, which I think, to your point, we can do all the work. And I think a lot of the work is done to like familiarize ourselves with the player, understand who they are, what they can do. And then it's like applying it afterwards to their draft capital, to their situation. Like, okay, I know what Kyle Monangai can do, but maybe his athleticism doesn't match up to, what the tape shows. And then the situation, that he fell to the 6th round is not so great either, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of put it all together and yeah, you still like the player. Maybe you'll take a shot, but the hit rate's just not really there anymore.
Yeah, it's just like I'm going to take Isaac Tesla and Ty Felton over him every time,
Okay.
Just because they're wide receivers and you see the path there and they have the draft capital. At the end of the day, like this coach is just like, I just don't fuck with Kyle Monangai. I don't like him. And you can't say, well, my model, it's just
yeah. Like graded him and he has a 67 out of 100. So it's like, you sound like a real nerd at that point. Like you don't know at all what you're talking about. So no, I definitely get that. And I think that, when we do all this work, a lot of people just stick to their guns. And I think it's good to kind of be malleable like that as you go through the process. That's kind of how we need to do this. We need to adjust. And so I appreciate that about your process. I think it's a good thing to do to kind of keep refining that like systematic attribute grading process, because like it is actually really key. I feel like if you can nail down kind of what the NFL wants and you're grading that outright, you're gonna have an edge on your opponent. So I dig it. So what do you think the general fantasy community is getting wrong these days about like the incoming rookie class and their chances of success? Do you think like people get head over heels about some of these later round guys? Do you think there's other stuff about the classes that they generally misunderstand? or just scouting in general? Like, what do you think?
Yes. I do think that we make the same mistakes over and over again, where someone like RJ Harvey, it's we at the same time where we have processes and we need to make adjustments, at the same time we need to know that the NFL are kind of, and I don't mean this as a disrespect to front offices, but they're playing the same game that we are sometimes. It's start throws and everyone wants things differently. So someone like RJ Harvey, I feel like we get way over our skis over this. And I'm not saying it's directly correlated to CEH, but it just kind of feels like CH over here. And it's not so much that I dislike the prospect or I think he sucked, because I definitely thought he's someone that we're going to be drafting in round 2 of rookie drafts. You know, like he may get round 3 draft capital, but like now he's going ahead of Colston Loveland and Caleb Johnson. I'm just like, well, okay, now pump your brakes there, kid. This is a little ridiculous. It's just, and that's where I feel like we don't learn. You know, it's like this guy was basically a grown man and at UCF, and then kind of put it together, and then we're penciling in receiving work that never really was there, which we know statistically is not a good idea. It's not good. You know, like I'm as a film guy as it gets, but the numbers, if you weren't catching passes in college, you don't really catch passes in the NFL. It ain't
happening in the NFL.
Yeah. So it's a lot of these red flags, and that is one thing we get wrong. Then on the flip side, there's the other dynasty manager, and I'll bring this up from experience in some of these dynasty startups where they just fell in love with these prospects, like this running back, you know, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, you know, you got to get him in here. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's fine. You should be excited, but I'm not going to take him over some guy. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm not, he's not catching a string.
08 or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's when you're taking him. I mean, people in startups, they're taking him over. Like I talked about Jawan Jennings, and I'm not saying they're doing that, but like players like the Jawan Jennings, it's like, man, this guy's really boring. You know, like Rashad Bateman is falling to, like, this guy just got a new contract, was healthy for an entire year, and we saw what they want to do with him second half of the season, and we're getting like 4th round running backs, and I mean rookie 4th round, not even NFL 4th round running backs ahead of them. So it's being the reasonable manager that takes in all the information and then tries to be logical, and it feels like we can't do that.
Yeah, it definitely goes back to the point before it as well, especially like with RJ Harvey, thinking about how much like I liked RJ Harvey before the draft, probably more than anybody. Like I heard talking about RJ Harvey. I'm like, yo, this guy's awesome. Like I had a great film grade on him and everything. And even we can't get him past like what the 15th, 16th player. So we're never getting him. Like in rookie drafts, like we're literally never getting, like I have 0 shares of RJ Harvey because like I can't do that, you know, I can't do that. And so it goes back to kind of not holding on to that bias of like liking the player and not understanding even the fantasy market, right? Like you have to adjust to that too. And you can't kind of get over your skis on that either. So I definitely agree with that. There's a lack of of kind of level-headedness in the community in general, and I think that plagues a lot of us. So yeah, it's a good shout. Okay, good stuff there. All right, let's talk about some players, man. I can't help but talk about this narrative here. Like I have a couple links. I haven't looked at them in a minute. I saw them. Yeah. I'm sure you saw this stuff without even me posting it here. You know what I mean? You didn't need to see that. But like, I think we talked about this a little bit with Waldman last week, but I keep seeing it, can't stop talking about it. So I feel like, are we getting into the Jamar Chase like drops territory with Travis Hunter? You know, we have it was the flags reaction test where he wasn't doing that very well, which we've seen like a billion players not do well with that. And then there's, you know, a bunch of other just kind of takes going around that, you know, he's not generational at all, those kind of things. So, I mean, like, I guess, what are your thoughts on these? I'll pull these up and I'll shout them out, I guess, some of this nonsense as we go. But how do you feel about Travis Hunter? You think we're getting a little bit crazy with kind of some of the criticism?
Yeah, that's, and I'm happy. I'm at this point in my career, I'm like, that's just nonsense. Like I almost have like Twitter goggles on where I can't even read that shit anymore. I'm just like, okay, we're being ridiculous. And it's the same thing where we can't be level headed, where people just can't accept that multiple things can be true. That a little bit of Travis Hunter is being bumped up because he plays cornerback and he is a very good wide receiver on top of that. Because my big comp for him, and it's not a direct specifically size comp, but it's been from Brian Thomas Jr. I'm like, man, like BTJ is not polished as some of these other guys, but he just moves so much better than every other player on the field that it doesn't matter. And what does Brian Thomas Jr. come out and do? Kind of the same thing, and that really does translate in the NFL. So, and this, when people are talking about rookie camp where he doesn't stick a hitch route, I'm not, he's like, he can't run simple routes. I'm like, oh, all right, man. Like, where were the other 40 snaps that happened that practice? It's just like, we get really silly all the time and we're bored. Like this is what I'm talking about. We're getting like into the boredom period where it's just like, I had time to sit on the toilet and then think of an opinion that I think no one else had before. So I'm going to say it.
That never is a good idea, by the way.
It's Travis Hunter was not drafted second overall because he's the best wide receiver prospect since Megatron. He was drafted second because he's a unicorn, good at playing both sides of the ball. There is probably some truth to that, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
There's probably some truth to that, but I don't think that really is an indication of whether he's going to be successful or not, or how good he's going to be. Then they have the fans coming out here, and this is, the NFL Rookie Watch, which is the most ridiculous account ever, but generational, they said, and yet he seems average as a receiver. That has come and gone. He doesn't even look the same level as BTJ. He purposely being bad, so they finally put him with the DBs. I just think, it's funny, for every bad route you see, there's like 15 good routes that you just aren't seeing. So yeah, you just kind of gotta let it go with this. This really does feel like the Jamar Chase stuff all over again, where you're worrying about kind of simple things as he gets going in the pros. And
the Garrett Wilson hop. The Garrett Wilson hop in the combine, like this. These are moments.
I was definitely calling that out. I remember that. I remember that. But you got to learn from your mistakes. You know what I mean? Yeah. You have to learn. No, for sure. That's hilarious. The Garrett Wilson hop. Holy crap! I like the BTJ shout, though. I do think similar, like lanky kind of style receivers. They move similarly, raw but really talented. So yeah, I think those are good shouts. Before we keep moving here, Sheesh, Jagger's voice sounds beautiful on the mic. The other two need to step their shit up. God damn, Jake, come on, bro. In the YouTube comments, I need to set my video up too, man. My webcam broke. Oh my god, it's going terrible. And Jagger has a killer background, so he's really putting us to shame. Gordo said Jake taking the night off for some vocal coaching, probably. Yes, reading the room, right? That's what I'm talking about, my guy. I appreciate you, Gordo. All right, so I got to talk to you about Terrence Ferguson. I know that this is a guy who I think you have kind of risen up your rankings post-draft, and maybe kind of what we were talking about before, some of the adjustment. So, like, where does he fall within this class for you? Like, is he tight end? What? Tight end, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Where does he fall?
He's tight end 3 right now for Dynasty. And that's just me. Again, I'm being reasonable because personally for redraft, I think he is tight end 2. And I know that's weird to say, but again, like I do a lot of best ball and redraft. I do like everything now. So I'm kind of switching my brain around into these different modes. And just the path to success for Terrence Ferguson, it just seems easy. I've loved him since I started scouting in like August already. I fell in love with his tape. Then he came out and he put on a great show at the combine to validate a lot what was on his tape. And then he gets the draft capital on top of that. And a lot of people, and this goes back to the initial point of what you're saying, what the community gets wrong about upcoming rookies. It's not taking all the information in. Like, I had a Tyler Warren fade video, and then people on YouTube, they're like, well, Brock Bowers. And I'm just like, like the next person who comes at me with Brock Bowers, I'm just gonna scream in your face, just because they're not even the same type of tight end together. And it's like you just forget that the type of prospect Brock Bowers is. So we can't rationalize that like one. I know it's hard to say Aiden O'Connell played better than Anthony Richardson did. It's just objectively true. Like he was just a better quarterback. I'm not saying Aiden O'Connell's good. I'm just saying Anthony Richardson was hot shit. And that's someone I drafted a lot of them. I have a lot of Anthony Richardson problems now. He just played like garbage.
Same.
Yeah. So and then you're going to a team that has lots of weapons. People are like, well, the weapons aren't good for the Colts. Like we don't know that they're not good because C.A. Anthony Richardson was hot garbage, so like, I don't even know if Adonai Mitchell's good or not because it's impossible to figure out. So with Terrence Ferguson, when you look about everything as a whole, he's someone that I want to take early and often. I like Mason Taylor a lot, but Justin Fields isn't Matt Stafford. And moreover, they don't have someone like Sean McVay. And Sean McVay, I know what he wants to do. You want a versatile player. He wants versatile players who can block and be places on time. That's Terrence Ferguson. Tyler Higbee, who like he said what 8? We expected like a year 9 breakout on Tyler Higbee. I just don't believe that.
I mean, I'm definitely not a Higbee guy. And you bring up a lot of reasonable points, to be honest with you. I think, for me, and I'm trying not to hold on to my like pre-draft bias, but there is some of that there for sure. And that like, I just wasn't in love with the film. So like, I didn't feel like he really brought a lot in terms of route technique. He's obviously fairly athletic, but I didn't see a lot after the catch. What was it that you really liked about him from a film perspective? Not to like challenge you that much, but I just didn't, I definitely didn't have the same take as you. So I'm interested where you kind of differ.
It's versatility. I grade the separate attributes from where their alignment is, and Terrence Ferguson played out wide a lot and won out wide a lot. And the way he could catch away from his body, that's a huge thing with athleticism on there. Like making catches away from your body. Are you beating defensive backs? And that's something that he did consistently at Oregon. And Oregon had a tough schedule. And, we saw them playing the playoffs. So I had quality tape. It's not like, the Harold Fannin tape. It's not like, some of the like these Mountain West Conference games, like some. Sure. Like, I hate watching Mountain West Conference because I'm like, I'm not even sure if this is real. Like sometimes
is this a simulation? Are we sure this is did this happen?
Yeah,
like Harold Fannin is like a myth. Like it's like he came out of nowhere, right? Like he just appeared.
And I fell hard early on, and then he just came out. I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, shit, sucks.
Yeah, so I mean, that's interesting. So with Fannin, did it like fall apart when you started watching the film for you? Or like where did like because he still got decent draft capital, right? Like he still got it, and you might not love the landing spot, like I don't love it either, but still like the NFL obviously, liked him. So what happened for you kind of throughout the process?
Throughout the process, the relative athletic score did dip it for me where, sure. Like where I'm like, well, he's more tight end 5. It wasn't like a hard fade here, but like I could still see drafting him in I would say back end of round 2, kind of where we're drafting Taylor and Ferguson sometimes. The tape, and this is me this whole year, what I've got to get better at scouting on is looking at athleticism on tape, just paying a little bit more attention to that and not so much technique. And that's on me, but it's really the landing spot, man. What are the Browns? What are they doing? I feel like they're being ran by 2 toddlers in a trench coat. I'm just like, I'm unsure. You have 5 quarterbacks. You have 5 quarterbacks on your roster. You took Dylan Sampson in the 4th round. It's just like they kind of started fine. Like when they first started the draft, it looked good. They were the horse meme where they started hot and it got real ugly real fast. It's like, okay, cool. You got Quinshawn Judkins. You got a really good mobile linebacker. And I was like, Dylan Sampson is like, if you wanted Dylan Sampson, you could have got a Dylan Sampson in the 7th round. Like, what are we doing here? And then taking Dylan Gabriel ahead of Shadur Sanders. Was there a race for Dylan Gabriel? I don't think there was a race. Like, was he looking at Mike McDaniel and he's just like, nah, I'm going to get him first. Or was this like, it almost seems orchestrated where you had to disrespect Sanders.
It was like
that much
purposeful
more.
disrespect. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's what it was. It was.
It's like, if you're a poverty franchise, can you spend draft picks out of spite? Like, like a spite pick, and just like Dylan, like, come here and be our sacrificial lamb so we could tell, Shedeur, fuck you, before we draft him around later. It's just a lot of questionable things. And then when you think that they have, to bring it back full circle to Fannin, David Njoku is there. Why? This is the one time where you're like, we have Harold Fannin at home, and it's objectively better. Like, it's a better meal. Like, you're asking it from a McDonald's meal that was dug out of a trash can. And I'm not disrespecting Fannin like that, but comparison to David Njoku, premium relative athletic score, still young as far as tight end apex, productive. What are we doing, Browns? Like they don't deserve that team. Like, they should be relegated. Let's send them down. Let's pull a Canada team up. What can you do with some money?
The worst part is their plan is very likely to let Njoku walk, and they're going to go with Fannin going forward. You know what I mean? Because that is got to be the idea, is that he's up for a contract next year, and Fannin will just take his place, which is probably, it is not a 1-to-1 thing, So that's yeah, I mean, I just from their, just from their perspective, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of where it's going. But no, that makes sense. I do think that's a good breakdown of kind of like why
bold strategy,
why to fade him a little bit.
Sorry about my Browns rant, but like, just they're frustrating to talk about.
I mean,
it's not even funny anymore.
That QB room has to be horrible to be in. I can't imagine with Watson and Sanders and
Pickett.
I don't even know. There's a couple other Pickett. Oh God.
Kenny Pickett, when you come in there and you feel like you're the most underqualified one there, like him and Dylan Gabriel. Like, Dylan Gabriel is like if you asked AI to make an action figure photo of Tua Tagovailoa, that's who Dylan Gabriel is, and that's like not a good thing.
Hilarious. He's like the CPU created player. That's ridiculous. Oh my God, generic one. All right. Before we move off to the tight ends, I do want to ask, because I imagine Loveland's tight end 1 for you, like he is for most. Like, I guess he's not for most. I'm sure a lot of people have Warren. We have Loveland as well as 1. But is there any concerns or any reason to be concerned about kind of the volume that he potentially be getting there? Just because they added Burden, they have a Dunze, they have plenty of mouths to feed. So is there any concern with that or no?
I kind of think that I'm going in and listening to the coaches speak, which I felt like was very intentional, very Sean Payton-y, but respectful, in a sense, to where it's tabula rasa is what I've said. Clean slate. They're going in here, and I'm pretty sure Bill Johnson's like, I don't need to think about anything Matt Eberflus has done. It hasn't been good. I don't care about anything. Like, Cole Kmet, get ready to learn tackle, buddy. I'm not too concerned. Yeah. If anything, what I see and listening to what Ben Johnson said about, we didn't like some of the things we saw on tape of guys like giving up on routes and everyone needs to block. I think DJ Moore is the odd man out. And I'm not trying to slide Colston Loveland directly into like the Sam Laporta role or whatever, because I don't like, that's not how everything works. And I think he's not quite the blocker that Laporta is, but I think that maybe not this time next year. We're talking about the pecking order is going to be Burden, Loveland, Adunze, and everything else just doesn't really matter that much anymore. And that's why, especially with that high draft capital that they paid for him, I'm smashing Colston Loveland at cost every time.
Fair enough. I think that's a good take. All right. You hopped in the Pokemon League that we're in together, and you were like, I am trading up for Jack Bech at all costs. I don't care how I get there. I'm doing it. And I thought that was an interesting take, not because I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but I just, I haven't seen too many people who are just like, I believe in this guy no matter what. And so I wanted to get your take on, just what you thought about him, because I do feel like there's some limitations to his game. So what is it that you feel is, just something that you wanted to come away with him in your drafts. What's the reason for that?
Opportunity. I've bought into the Raiders. That might be a mistake, but I don't know if Tom Brady being in there has done anything. But at first, when they brought in Pete Carroll, I was just like, "Yeah, that's the Raiders. Y'all back," But everything else that they've done after that, I could see the vision. It's one of the few times where I see real competence as far as team building and intentionality, and that brings me to Jack Bech here, where someone like Puka Nacua, and I'm not doing direct comps because one, Puka Nacua, people forget he's like 6'3", 220. Jack Bech is only 6'1", like 214. He's still, but he played tight end and we've been versatility. And then one point that I want to bring up, he's been productive in crowded rooms at LSU, even playing in a different position at every place he's been. And he's been productive. And this is something I brought up about tight ends, where he's productive in multiple positions at wide receiver. He's played at Z. He's played in like a slot back where he's kind of playing like a little bit of H back and tight end. And that's why I bring in the Puka comp, where you bring in someone like Chip Kelly. What we saw him do with Ohio State, using all those versatile pieces, moving them around, bringing different looks. You see where Jack Bech immediately slots in. And then you're like, well, Jack, they still have Jacoby Myers. Well, Jacoby Myers can, again, play Z and in the slot. And again, Bech played X a little bit at TCU. So I see all these pieces moving around. Same thing with Bowers. And I basically see a bunch of chess pieces that Chip Kelly could come in and utilize, and someone who could stay on the field, because the NFL, and this goes back to one of the original points that we made, they really value versatility and not tipping their hand at the defense. So players who are valuable blockers and can move all over the formation are ones that I want on my team. So a lot of these second round rookies that go, Bech is the one I want most, because I think he has even a better opportunity than Luther Burden has, who we mentioned. There's a lot of competition and things and room to go wrong in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a great breakdown. Are you not like, do you think that him and Myers are too similar, or do you think they do different things?
I think they do different things, because I expect Myers to only be playing in the slot or more of a flanker and on the move more often, or vice versa is what I'm saying. But I think that especially how Bech was used at TCU, I really see him as much of a seam pusher as Bowers does. And like really how the Rams use Puka, that's how they're going to use Myers and Bech here. Cause like you said, if you think about Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, all that Puka Nacua was a power slot. And then Cooper Kupp was definitely a slot, and they got it done like that. And I think that's especially a mesh king like Chip Kelly. He's going to spam mesh like a mofo. I feel like with Geno Smith, and he has the perfect pieces to do this.
Yeah, that's fair, man. You're making me wish I had a little bit more Bech. That's tough. I do like the kid. I think I let like the long speed. He lacks a little bit of that. I think that really like upper tier speed. I think I let that get to me a little too much, because he definitely seems to me like a guy who's pretty reliable, and he does have really good athleticism. So maybe letting the upper tier stuff affect me too much with that. But yeah, good breakdown there. Okay. So
I think a lot of it too with him was just like name. Like no one was really talking about Jack Bech.
I wasn't either. Yeah.
A month before the NFL draft, right? And I think for most of us, NFL draft came around, we're like, oh, who's this Bech guy? I mean, maybe you had watched him prior or not, but I think no one was really getting all that familiar with him until he actually got drafted by an NFL team. And I think that's probably why, people are a little more hesitant to draft him as high as you're willing to do that.
Well, it's I got to give him and bring out my fault. I totally helmet scouted him. I have not graded a good TCU wide receiver in my entire life. I was just like, I was like, I've probably seen enough. And then when I went back, I'm like, oh wow, he's running real routes and doing real stuff. Like they're asking, like when they ask players to do a lot and they perform, it's just, it's good to see. And I don't mean to like do coaches speak, or he's like a real football player, but he is, and that's something that I think that more and more teams are rewarding.
Yeah, I do think he showed good nuance. Like he's definitely a pretty good route runner, maybe even above average coming in. That's definitely obviously what you need in this league, and these players are coming in more ready, so it's no surprise. But yeah, and it's also no surprise when you think back, like you said, this guy was competing with some of the best back at LSU. Like that is important. You know what I mean? Even though he had it. Kind of had to get out of there because there's just like
there's
too much going on at that time. But I mean, I do think you can see kind of the big slot and him working in tandem with Bowers might be really interesting, kind of in the similar areas of the field. Having two of those powerful, big guys, it's gonna be interesting. Okay, cool. So we're gonna come back a little bit to the Bears here, to our resident Rome truther, who's. Or was Rome's year one better than perceived on a surface level? Let's just start there.
Yeah, I think it was. And one thing I like to validate is another film grinder who charts their work is Matt Harmon. I looked at his reception perception profile. It was fine. It wasn't like scary or anything like that. And we get these spreadsheet guys get really into I feel like Severance, if you've seen that, they're like the numbers, they were scary, and I'm just like, come on, man. Like look with your eyes. Like all you have to say is Luke Getsy, and it really does make things a wash. Like I genuinely think, I don't know if Rome Odunze is even bad because they weren't running anything competent. DJ Moore gave up. Caleb Williams apparently didn't even want to get drafted there. There's just a lot of dysfunction. And I think that this is a guy who had a lot of talent for a reason, went high for a reason, and we're giving up on him entirely too early. So he's someone that I'm willing to pay, especially my back half first on. Let's say if I'm good at running back and someone wants Caleb Johnson, here you go. Boom. I'll gladly take a Dunze there. Yeah, like doing stuff like that. Or if I'm I have AJ Brown or something. If I could tear off AJ Brown and someone's competitive, I'm like, here's AJ Brown. Give me Rome Odunze and almost anything. If you can give me like a free second or third, or depending on where you're at in the draft, and you're getting a player that you like, I feel like that's a win.
I do like those ideas actually. I do like Rome Odunze in a second. I think that actually be something you could really get done. Okay, but keeping on Odunze, do you think? And this might have happened. Do you think that that his dynasty value was hindered by kind of the neighbors, Brian Thomas, lad seasons, like them having good rookie seasons?
For sure, because like it's one of those things where if someone's gonna come up, someone naturally has to come down. But I think with him and Marvin Harrison Jr., it's even beyond the vacuum of their season, because we've seen these extraordinary rookie seasons, record breaking from Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, to where we're just like, oh, you didn't break a record, I can't play with you anymore. It's so unreasonable now.
I don't want to play with you anymore. Just throw on the side. I'll take a second for Rome Odunze now. It's like,
it's just like, come on now. And again, this is why I keep telling everyone, all the context matters. You need all the information tells a story, and like some things you can ignore, obviously, like I would say a Luke Getsy coach season, but on top of that, like what other things matters, like draft capital, previous college tape, reception perception, all these other measurable things go into it here. So like Rome Odunze getting 700 yards, Marvin Harrison Jr. having almost 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, and people saying he sucked. This is why no one respects fantasy players, guys. Like the shit like that. This is why we don't get to ask questions at combines anymore. You know?
Oh my goodness. I mean, like the couch scouts definitely get a bad name, bro. We get a bad name on the whole, So yeah, we got to do better for.
I think with Rome, what you got to look at. He still got 101 targets.
No, definitely. I mean,
he only caught 54 of them, but I'm guessing that's not having to do with his hands, because he's got great hands.
Yeah, and it's like Caleb Williams did not play well. And this goes back, was it all Caleb Williams' fault? No, the offensive line didn't play well. Then they weren't well coached. It's just like football is very hard, and there's a lot of layers to it. So when we look at, well, he didn't hit this threshold, garbage. It's just like,
And 700 yards in a rookie year.
Yeah, that used to be great. Yeah.
That used to be the threshold that you needed to at least hit, and you're like, oh, he could probably break out in the next couple of years, right?
Yeah,
like that was kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's that's a great point. Definitely a good point. So I guess what's an appropriate expectation for Rome going into, year 2 growth and usage? Like, will he be, in your opinion, I mean, you kind of alluded to this, so I'm interested to hear what you say, but will he be more in the slot? Like, how do you think he'll be used, or is kind of Burden now taking over that role?
I'm not really sure. Because they don't have the same type of room that the Lions have. So like, how are they going to use him? Obviously you have a versatile tight end like Colston Level, and he can block, did a lot of blocking. I still don't think he's Iowa tight end great at it. So will you see him more than the Amon-Ra St. Brown role? Whereas DJ Moore and Luther Burden, I see them in the Jameis Winston, where they're going to do a lot of crossers, getting them on the move. What they both do well, they both can play a little bit deep. But some other role that we don't think about often that the Lions had was the Tim Patrick role. And I think that role that someone thinks is tertiary, that's just because they only had Tim Patrick there. If you have someone that's like Roma Dunze over there, you could throw to the X more. Moreover, if you have someone like Caleb Williams, who has a little bit more arm talent than Jared Goff does, you could make those throws a little bit more often. So a lot of this one-to-one comparison, I think we can do that a little bit easier with the running backs. But with the wide receivers, I expect a little bit more boom bust and a little bit more focused targets to someone like Loveland, and everyone else. I would say that they still might get 20% target volume, but we're going to be expecting more off big plays and not so much the Amon-Ra. We're going to keep giving you 10 targets a game type stuff. Like, to be honest, I would be happy with the Marvin Harrison Jr. season. I know, like, the prices I'm getting him at, if I'm only getting 900 to 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, that's fine if I can count on that. But a lot of people just don't love to hear that. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess manage your expectations a little bit on that. So that's, it's a good idea. And also, obviously, the price is not that high. So I guess, it kind of fits what he's potentially going to be. It's interesting to hear that, because I think most people would expect a little bit larger of a role for him, and also maybe something that looks more like what the Lions are doing. But you're right, they have different players and players that they can use a little bit differently. Like Burden's not a 1-to-1 with Amon-Ra, right? Like he can
not even close.
No, of course he can work more on the outside a little bit. He can do some different things. So they definitely are going to be moved around quite a bit there. I didn't expect to talk about this, but you're kind of you went into the running back room being maybe easier to kind of compare in that way. So is it that you're saying Swift is like the Gibbs, and Roschon Johnson is your?
I think Monangai is
okay, good.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were a little too down on Monangai earlier, so I didn't know if that's what you were thinking. But yeah, so that's what I want to hear. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the backfield then?
Yeah, like Monangai, he's the only one I'm trading back into the 4th round. Like when you have these tight ends, on your taxi that you're like, well, maybe, like I'm sending the force for those to go get like someone like Monangai, because I see the Damian Pierce route. Like some of these other ones are, remember James Robinson, where even if they don't hold that value long term, you could get at least redraft value that can help you win a championship, or you could capitalize. Like definitely use it in season, maybe see what you can get postseason, because we know how day 2 draft capital works day 3 draft capital works, especially round 6 draft capital. So,
okay, that makes sense. That's interesting. So Roschon Johnson's just.
Roschon Johnson played like 4 snaps in Texas. Like everyone wanted Roschon to happen. He was a converted quarterback who was stuck behind Bijan. Like he is what he is. His thing was pass blocking. Like, I mean,
yeah, he'll get in a couple of reps. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Good stuff. I mean, yeah, man, that's interesting. Wait, I had actually one more that I wrote down that I didn't put on here. That was kind of player specific. Oh yeah. We haven't really talked about this much in general with anybody, but I'm interested in your thoughts on Matthew Golden. I feel like he's one of the harder profiles to really pin down, especially with where he went, right? Like I know that it seems like he has a clear shot to be kind of the lead in Green Bay, but I guess just kind of give me your thoughts on the evaluation.
I think he's Jordan Addison.
And then and then how? Okay, well that doesn't sound very great in terms of upside, but so yeah, I guess you don't think very highly of him then.
That's it's funny mention that because
Jordan Addison's good though. I don't want to trash Jordan Addison. He's pretty good. I shouldn't say that.
I would say it's a good and bad thing. I'm like, like they love getting these wide receiver twos. That's just where I'm at.
They just added one to the collection, right? They just added one.
Yes.
I will say they built
to the collection.
They've built a better basketball team, like a more complete one, where Rome Odunze is going to play X. I definitely see Z flanker and field pusher with Matthew Golden, and then a lot of the move slot stuff and crosser stuff from Jaden Reed. That is encouraging. I'm just not drafting a whole lot of Golden. I know that's crazy. I'm just not drafting a lot of Golden, man. I like the trade value. If someone at the 2-1 wants to get Golden, I'm like, cool. I could trade back, get Bech and Terrence Ferguson. That's good with me, dog.
Absolutely. I'm kidding. Yeah, 100% in line with that. He just seemed to be kind of a guy that people liked a lot more than I did. But I guess it was more the film guys really didn't love him that much. And then also his analytical profile wasn't great. So then the data guys didn't love him that much, but he was still getting hyped up. So I think I kind of feel the same way. All right, cool. Let's move on to something a little outside the box here. So positional distribution. This came up in a league that Jagger and I are in together. And I thought it was interesting because Superflex leagues, not often is there a difficult QB market really per se. But Jagger actually brought up that this market just happened to be pretty difficult and that it was really because of the positional distribution of the QB position. So my question is kind of how do you navigate a league with wonky positional distribution that makes it difficult to make moves? And I guess if you want to expand a little bit on why you think this league became difficult.
Well, one, this is the sharpest league I have. It's not even close. We're all sharp in that league. It's I tell everyone, I'm a third rounder does not matter in this league because if I like the guy, someone is probably going to get him ahead of time. Unless, honestly, this was the only draft class where I feel like the thirds do matter. Because you're not going to get some of these some guys, let's say in 2024 class third rounder, that's that you ain't getting nobody because no one's going to leave them. How I specifically navigated in this one is I just had to hold. I had 4 quarterbacks, and normally you're going to try to leverage one of those quarterbacks to fix something on your roster here. And why it was difficult is because we're sharp. Everyone pretty much had a quarterback, at least 2. No one, and you're not going to be desperate to go out and get a third quarterback to where you're going to make a bad deal. So you lose a lot of leverage in doing that. So you just need to be patient. So I waited until the draft, and I did this on purpose. I'm going to wait and see who gets Jalen Milroe. And then our friend Chris got Jalen Milroe, and he had only 3 QBs with Jalen Milroe being his third. And I'm like, well, now since you waited the draft, you didn't get the QB that you wanted. Shadur fell. We really only have Cam Ward, who has real draft capital. Jackson Dart, what is he? He could be Kenny Pickett. People aren't prepared to say that he could just be Kenny Pickett, So I finally used that situation. I'm like, here's this. Could you give me Jaden Reed on that? I was like, I need more receiver depth here. Can I get this and a pick? And I finally found the right situation where to move that. And that's basically what you got to do, because you don't ever want to sell someone too early. And sometimes I'll even do that ahead of a draft. I bought Ladd McConkey with the 101. A lot of people did not like that move at all. I don't think I'm going to hate it too much at the end of the day. I think Ladd McConkey, unless he gets injured or something like that, I don't think
I don't think it was the worst trade by any means. I think you left a little bit on the table. That's
what I'm saying, but I probably left a little bit on the table. So that's another league. I have the same thing. I have 4 QBs. It's not an industry league. Quarterback is I would say it's deep, but it's not. There's top heavy, and then everyone's kind of the same. So I'm just going to wait for an injury. Inevitably, a quarterback, someone's going to lose a quarterback and need someone, and then I'm going to try to move. So that's all you're trying to do. You never want to spam trade, and you always want to look for a good trade partner to get something done. And like Chris even thanked me, he said, thank you for having the thought that I had Milroe, so I lock up the Seattle QB room. Because the way that our league is set up is there is no rebuild. You need to be competitive, and you need to earn badges so you can win.
Much, yeah.
So like he's like, yes, I need this. This works. That's how I'm doing it. Sorry if that was a little rambly.
No, that was actually great. And looking at the trade specifically, you sent Darnold for Reed and Demario Douglas, and
yeah,
I actually think that's a great trade because and for him it's a great trade because, like you said, he locks up the room no matter what, and there's a very, very high chance that Milroe ends up being the guy there. So you may have gotten rid of a guy who is going to be a zero to you in maybe the 24 months or less. So yeah, definitely like the idea there, but I think it's interesting because we don't often think about when we're making trades or when we're just like, trying to map out like what we're going to do with our teams. Like what are those positional distributions? How tough is it going to be to trade your QBs away or for a QB? Because like you said, once you said it, I went and looked around at everybody's teams and I was like, oh, that is really true. Almost everybody has at least 2 QBs and almost everybody has 3. And so it does become difficult at that point, no matter what your build is, to kind of start moving off of those players for something that's actually going to be impactful. And so you got to start getting really crafty with it. And I think what Jagger's saying is huge because it's part of what a lot of people don't want to put in, which is that effort and commitment, which we always end up coming back to. And it's tough, but you have to be, you kind of have to be, watching all the happenings of your league, understand what, is going on in the actual NFL, and then hit those specific spots, those windows where you can go ahead and say, hey, this guy needs a quarterback right now. I need to get off of this player and I can actually get something valuable in return. And this was perfect. He's watching the rookie draft and going, bam, there's my shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really heady because you're like, these players match together. Obviously, they're going to want to secure that room. Anytime you can do something like that, if you can go ahead and pair Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart, with that manager or whatever it is, and get off of your Russell Wilson share or your Jackson Dart share, probably both of those will be valueless at some point. But the point is if you can find those managers where you have that symbiotic relationship, like you're going to have a lot easier time getting off of that. Regardless of the positional distribution. So, I appreciate the conversation and you bringing that up in that league because it made me think about something I hadn't really considered too much before, but I definitely now go into like every one of my leagues and I'm like, oh, all right, who are we too even in this position, or is there like an uneven distribution? Because you can attack it the other way too, right? It's like if you have a crazy, again, if you do like you listen to the Superflex Super Show and you do the QBX or you do anything like that where you have a lot of a position or you go tight end heavy, you can really affect the league in that way and start, acquiring different things.
Wide receiver, I hit on pretty like I'm really good at scouting wide receiver a lot of times. So like that is 100% my strategy where just like I know this guy's pretty good. I'm gonna have like 6 wide receivers. And then like RB2, I'll figure that out. Like you guys go draft who's good, and then you come get one of my receivers when you're ready.
And they'll give you a plus to do it too.
Exactly.
Usually, and I'm 100% with you. It's like understand what you're good at scouting. Get those players because you're going to get hits. And then we're zero running back hero running back builds all over the place. So we do the same thing. It's like you stack up on those receivers, tight ends, and then sell them off for whatever you need later in the season, or just send a late second round pick because you're competing, and then that it's going to be a low hit rate for that player, and you're good. So definitely love that. All right, so we have one more, and then we're going to let you get out of here. Maybe you can hit the gym still. If not, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your time, Jagger. Seriously, we know how tough it is out there for us 30-plus-year-olds, but. One more question here. Content, your strategy kind of on the content side of things as you've started creating more content around best ball. You talked about that earlier a little bit. Like, how has it started to shape your dynasty lens and your view? And is there anything that we can translate from like the best ball side of things to the dynasty side of things?
One thing that I've really learned, and I kind of talked about this with someone like Terrence Ferguson earlier, and one thing I caught in a recent video I made, because it's fresh in my mind, someone like Justin Fields, best ball, they are very pure at just thinking about what reasonable scenarios are going to happen in that 1 year. And they're not thinking about so much age. Like they do a little bit age, especially with these running backs or something, but they're not getting caught up on the difference between this 27-year-old wide receiver and like a 24-year-old wide receiver so much. So when you have rankings like that, and like someone I looked at, I was like, wow, Justin Fields is best ball QB8 for a lot of people. And there's a lot of reasons why he'd be QB8. But in Dynasty, we're ranking him QB 21. You know, some people even later where they just like, I just don't want him. I'd rather have Jackson Dart. I'd rather have this. That is a massive discrepancy in a good bet that you can bet on in Dynasty and realize that value in season to where, hey, Justin Fields, it finally worked out for us, or you could sell then. And he's someone like now I'm having QB3 prices for. I'm going out and getting QB3, even QB2, low end QB2, and I can have QB1 upside. So if you're in like single QB, especially, I think this is a high leverage move because he is really cheap on top of that. So if you're stuck with maybe these back end non-mobile QBs, let's say like Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy or something like that, you can go get a Justin Fields and you have a high leverage move that is a relatively low cost. So it's made me be realistic on what values are and how value swings, because in Dynasty, we like to think that we play in 3-year windows, but when that heats on us in season, we end up just playing redraft pretty fast.
Yep.
Yeah, you do end up going for the points pretty quickly. So I can see how you can get out of that investment pretty fast too if you don't believe in like what you're seeing. I guess is the point, right? Because either he hits or he hits short term and you can move on, because very likely he's going to have one of those, you know, crazy rushing games and a couple, you know, high fantasy point games, even if he's bad.
And a lot of it is just playing. That's how you play the long game, is like, you're not so much, I'm going to get this player now and then hoard him and forget about him. Cause like, you're not going to be able to do that, where it's just like, I'm not even going to bother myself with Tyler Warren right now, because I'm going to make a bet that this time next year, I'm going to get them Trey McBride prices, and then I'm going to have the Trey McBride season. And the same thing with Amari and Hampton. I've gotten a couple of Amari and Hamptons just in case, you know, because like he's good. Let's say Najee Harris, whatever. But I just think people are like, Najee Harris sucks. I'm like, I don't think the NFL believes that. As much as everybody like fantasy believes that the NFL doesn't, Amari and Hampton is going to have a price dip when the market kind of comes to that realization. Then I'm buying Amari and Hampton. Let everyone else pay, you know, that he's RB4 for player profile right now. And I'm like, that's a little bold for me right now for Dynasty.
And I guess to your point, Tyler Warren's probably pretty low in the best ball rankings, right? Because they're kind of, they're baking in everything you said earlier with the Anthony Richardson stuff, the volume, like all that good stuff. And you bring up a great point, which is like, you know, this is something that all Dynasty players have to learn, because it's really hard to let go of the guys you like in the rookie draft. But it's like it's a lot better process to let Tyler Warren go, to let Kyle Pitts go, to let those players go to somebody else and go trade for them later. Tight ends are the career arc for tight ends is pretty. It's pretty damn straightforward. Like, there is almost always a dip on these guys, and you can almost always get them cheaper post rookie draft. So I think it's a great point. And I think that, you know, using kind of like the best ball mind to kind of focus in on that and be able to see that, it's like, it allows you to see some things that your Dynasty mind doesn't allow you to see, right? Like, it won't let you go sometimes so short term, where it's like, and I think this is a really valuable thing to do. We haven't done it recently, but like, if you bump up best ball ADP to Dynasty ADP and look at the, you know, the gaps for some players, you can really pick out some guys that you can go ahead and trade for now, right? That will end up, and again, to Jagger's point, like, if you hoard guys, like, you're not often going to make a great return on your investment or be able to consume their value, you know, the points that they're producing for you or their actual value. So it's better to kind of attack it this way, where, you know, a player like Justin Fields may not be a high value player long term, but short term he's going to bring something, and you're going to be able to move that for extra future value is probably the idea. You can move them for something in season, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I mean, great stuff. We hit an hour. Perfect. Jagger, thank you so much again. I can tell people what you're doing with Fast Draft and all that good stuff, but is there anything else that you want to tell the people about, or where they can find you and what you're doing?
No, man, I'm pretty much consolidated. Like my personal content's over on Fast Draft. It's just me over there. I have something up almost every day. And then if you're just not into football, which clearly you are because you're here, I do stuff with Unbinged. So like I'm talking about TV, nerdy stuff, just whatever. I think we're going to rank popcorn buckets by fuckability. So if you like content
I'm not gonna.
I think you just got a subscriber, bud.
Your eyes like
I need something different in my life. So
like I do not come over there if you want serious content. We are having fun.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't often listen to much outside of like Dynasty content just because I don't have that much time. But like when I catch your stuff, it's always good stuff that I vibe with, and I enjoy the conversations too because I love like people breaking down TV shows and shit like that. So you guys do a great job. It's definitely well produced and all that too. Almost everything Jagger does is not almost everything Jagger does is well produced. Fast Draft stuff looks great. Also, by the way, just shout out, stuff looks great, and obviously the content's really good. So yeah, anybody who wants to find Jagger on the Twitter streets, it's at Jag Says. For us, at Willie Beeman FF, at Uriah Dawkins, at Dynasty Underdog. Catch us out there. Otherwise, we will catch you next week. Peace out.